once you use these, you'll probably find that you'll keep picking them up again and again. So yeah, first one on there, no surprises for the black minnow. Next up, we've got a Pachinko 125. You'll be familiar with this if you do a bit of lure fishing. For those of you that are quite new to the game, this is what we call a surface lure. So you cast this lure out and it actually floats. And when you retrieve, it's meant to represent a bait fish that's come out of the shoal, maybe injured and struggling on the surface. And that's quite an easy picking for a bass. The Pachinko design is just brilliant. They're perfectly weighted lures as well, so they're very, very easy to cast. This particular one's got excellently sharp trebles. There, just pinching my hand. It doesn't scratch off easily either, so it's a very good quality plastic. You've got the eye there as a trigger point. I particularly like this colour as well. It's done well. The seam, the bit between the two bits of plastic is good, whereas on this sort of replica, it's not quite so good. So the Pachinko is definitely one that needs to be in the tackle box. Those that lure fish will know that well. It's got a rattler in there as well, so you've got one ball bearing I think I saw in there. Plus it's weighted there, and there's a magnet I think, so you get a good clicking sound as well. Tons of different colours. You can spend an absolute fortune with this lure fishing, and take your pick for the colours that you might want, depending on your budget as well, because these are costing you about £20 a go. Just the aerodynamics alone make it a good useful lure, but I've certainly had fish on these. It's my go-to surface lure. Retrieving it quite fast here. Always vary your retrieve till you find the one that the fish like. Another little bit of advice, of course, as a lot of people say, keep reeling in right the way to your feet, because a fish can follow these lures in and then take it at the last moment. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got the footage of fish hitting this from underneath, but I have got a little camera rig I've set up for this summer, so I'm hoping to maybe capture some underwater takes of lures. That'd be great to get that. But yeah, your Pachinko is definitely one that you would want, and it's one that comes well recommended from a lot of anglers up and down the country. Now next up we've got the back candy from Shimano. This is an 11 gram lure, and it's actually the smallest one that we've got on this list, but it's a terrific little lure. You can see on there it's got that cotton candy, as sometimes call it, where on the flank there you've got those little rainbow colours, and it's meant to represent, it's quite small, but it's meant to represent maybe a sand eel, herring, something like that, a small fish, and it moves left to right, left to right. You have to work your lure rod quite well with these, and I'd actually recommend a lighter lure rod. Although this fishes quite well with a 30 gram rod, I'd certainly prefer a slightly lighter setup with it. Casts like an absolute bullet. I mean, this will cast just as well as some of those larger lures. It does have a bigger brother as well. This is 129mm Shimano Excellence, and it's basically twice the size and twice the weight, and they fish in a very similar way. You do have to work these lures quite well, so using your rod tip you might do little flicks, but they are two that would certainly be in my tackle box, simply because of those colours seem to perform quite well. I've been told in daylight as well, but again, this isn't necessarily my view. I haven't used these lures other than to test them out, but they are two that come really well recommended by two very top anglers, and I would certainly go with what they're saying on these. There's two little negatives with one, of course, is they are expensive, but the other one is they're quite tricky to get hold of. I've actually managed to pick one up on eBay, and I've had to order that from Japan. So another lure that I don't think I'm going to be without in 2019, simply because it's done well for so many other anglers. It drops down through the body of water really nicely, sinks quite quickly. So you have to be careful how you play the lure. And it moves from left to right, left to right. Certainly looks like a distressed bait fish. Just what we want for bass angling. So if you can get hold of one, I've put some links in the comments below, but if you can get hold of one, it's another great one to have. Next up, we've got the IMA Kimono. IMA Kimono. This is 125mm. It's a 16-gram lure. Beautiful looking lure, isn't it? This one's a shallow diver. You can see it has like a left-right sort of action to it, so it'll bob and weave. I can bring this right up to the surface, but as I say, it is a shallow diver, so it'll sit less than a foot from the surface if you play it right. It's got those trebles on. They're size 4 trebles, the ST46, and it's got a rattle in there as well. But just look at the shape of that lure. It's almost like a work of art. So it should be for the cost as well. But you can still get hold of these. It's got a nice little rattle on it. The bearings in there. So yeah, 125. So it's about 5 inches long. From IMA. Nice big eye on there as well. I always think those eyes work quite well as a trigger point for the bass. And the quality and the sort of the moulding on the plastic means that you're not going to lose those colours either. If you look at the flanks there as well, that could pass quite easily for a mackerel. Nice green shade on the top, and the bearings run all the way along. So you do get some good sounds out of it. It's got the 3 sets of trebles on there. I don't particularly like having 3 sets of trebles on my lures. I might take the middle one out. Next up, we got the Geo Live Stix. This is a cheaper alternative. I would fish these unweighted and weedless, so straight onto the hook, and they're light enough to cast out with your lure rods, and also LRF as well, be plenty heavy. I use the 5.0 twist lock hooks. They've got a nice wide gape in them, and then they've got an offset shank there as well. And we'll have a look in a second the best way to rig these. This is what I think. Again, I've taken a lot of advice on this. Actually phoned a prominent Southwest lure guide as well, who thoroughly recommends these for attaching your lures. So these are the twist locks 5.0. Some people think that that's quite oversized, but I do prefer an oversized. This one's actually got some of the bait pod from our last video. You can still enter that, by the way. In the last video we're giving away some lures slightly different to these. Yeah, so this duo will fish really well underwater when it's close to obstructions. You might have boulders or kelp underneath the water, and you can fish really, really close to it without it snagging up as easy as some of the other plugs on here. It casts perfectly well as well, just without the weights. And so we use these hooks are probably the easiest way to hook these on. Just need to twist it in, and of course it's important to make sure that when you do put the hook through the main body of the lure, that it's dead straight. It's got to be exactly in the middle, and the gape of the hook can't come across at an angle. So take your time if you're going to do this. You can see it's got a ridge that runs down the middle. I actually put my thumb usually in position where the gape will go through, and there'll be some slight movement of the gape in there, so find that midpoint, push it through. That's not exactly perfect, to be honest. You just don't want to make it too tight there. So there's a little bit of movement there, but of course remember that a bass will hit that pretty hard, so it's just going to hook itself on those. As I say, these come perfectly well recommended. So another good one for the tackle box. the best links you can get to put on your lures are these, the breakaway mini links. That's it. I don't use anything else. They're perfect. And then our number 5 is going to be just a very quick one. I wanted to mention the Mega Bass Zonk. This is the 120. It's 20 grams. This is superb, and I've put this on here because it's caught me my 2 biggest lure caught fish as well. A very good mackerel imitation. So if the mackerel are in, you see the blue flashing bit on there. So definitely have a Zonk in with the lures in the box. And that's it really. I just wanted to give a rough idea of some top lures that we can all try and get for 2019. But what would you not go without? What's your go-to lure? I'd love to know. And also, if you're out fishing this weekend, have you started fishing on the lures already? It'd be good to know how you're getting on. Thanks very much for watching.